What's up, guys? I'm Chris from Thunderbolt Defense, and I wanted to talk about reference points on targetry. Okay, so I have my own targets from Axle Targets, who I'm also a sales rep for. So we're going to talk about targets, and we're going to talk about why certain targets have stuff on it. A few days ago, really high-level shooter basically said, guys, slow firing B8s is not the way to go from a training perspective, and he has a point. If all you're doing is slow firing B8s, you're probably not training your eyeballs to do things on normal targetry, silhouette targets like USPSA, to shoot them fast and aggressive, because they don't have legitimate target reference points on them. They just have the exterior, right? It's not like a B8 where they put a bullseye in the center, okay? It's just a cardboard silhouette that's blank, and you can't really see, once you get past 5 yards or so, depending on the lighting and stuff, you might not even be able to see the A zones. So there's a point to be made there, and it's legitimate, right? If the only thing that you're doing is sitting out here and shooting B8s, it's definitely a problem if you're just slow firing B8s. One thing that I will tell you though is B8s do help with fundamental execution. So from a diagnostic target perspective, removing the thought process of am I bringing a gun back to the exact same spot every time? Because sometimes if you shoot, you might not bring the gun back to the same spot, and you might shoot two perfect shots, but the sighting is not correct. So then you end up with, a shot here and a shot here. You did everything right on both of them. You just didn't bring the dot back to center on both shots. So that can happen. So the B8 is a diagnostic target that allows you to sort of eliminate the visual problem of perhaps not being able to see that far or not being able to bring the gun back to the exact same spot every time, right? So that's what shooting B8s are for. It's for high-level fundamental execution, and you can shoot them on a timer. You can shoot a B8 at 25 yards and try to come in under 20 seconds, 15, 10 seconds. I know guys that have shot 100 on a B8, so everything in this 10 ring right here in under 10 seconds, I believe. I think James Barron, who's a student and a friend of mine, he's actually a friend first and then a student, because your friends will support you. He has shot a B8 that quickly before, so 100, okay? So just because you're shooting B8s doesn't mean that guys aren't timing it and stuff like that. But if you're out here just shooting B8s, okay, slow fire, and that's like your 90-95% of what you're doing with shooting, you're doing yourself a disservice, because there's something to be said for shooting faster, more aggressively, shooting with movement, etc. All right. The other thing that I will tell you is there's this argument saying humans, right? So the USPSA guys were like, hey, our targets don't have target reference points on them, so that's why we don't like B8s. Okay, whatever, fair point. And then it devolved into USPSA guys sort of anti-B8 people, and guys that don't shoot competitively or shoot competitively at a low level saying that humans do not have target reference points on them. That is bullshit. This is me on a target. You see my face. You see a B8. Okay? You see the background. The background has a clear difference in color to my face. There aren't a ton of environments that are sort of like, would be like brown on brown for the target reference point, okay? So this is clearly a target reference point. All right, my shoulders, my shirt, if I was wearing a shirt with buttons on it, that could be a target reference point. Logos on shirts, okay? Belt line, all right, can give me a target reference point for where I need to be, where I need to aim, all right? So the idea that there's no target reference points in real life when you're shooting people is kind of bullshit. There are certain scenarios, low light scenarios or lighting conditions, where the reference points might not be as clear, which is why we have lights. That's why we have night vision. That's why we use devices to increase that ability to see what we're shooting at. But one of the first things that happens in classes where I bring these targets, and we're not going to do these targets anymore with me on them because it does make some people uncomfortable, but we are going to get a model and we're going to have a target exactly like this minus the B8s on the sides. We'll probably just put 2 up here and then call it a day. But what people mention is they go, oh, I can't see my hits. And that's what a lot of people are actually talking about when they talk about like a lack of target reference points. Because like guys will shoot a silhouette and then they see the hole in the silhouette and then they keep anchoring on the holes in the silhouette when they're practicing, which whatever, that's not the biggest deal in the world. But like when you shoot this target, people aren't able, once you get past, 5-ish yards or so, indoor, outdoor lighting conditions don't really matter. What's cool about the way that this, black shirt on this target is colored, it just, people can't see the holes. Especially when you shoot rifle, you really can't see the holes, sort of once you get past a certain distance. So like, there are reference points though. You have the hands, you have the shoulders, you have the head. All right, there's reference points on people, and there's I think in one thread on Facebook that I saw Chuck Pressburg, who's shot lots of people with rifles and pistols, said that people deaf have reference points on them when you point guns at them, and that's true. If you ask dudes that have pointed guns at people before, they will universally say that people have, well, maybe not universally. If you talk to switched on people that have pointed guns at people and shot people, they will say that people do have reference points on them because they do. They simply do. You're not going to point a gun at somebody's head and tell me that you can't see where their head starts and stops unless they're holding a flesh tone background behind them or something like that. It's just, or it's in a very shitty lighting condition, in which case we turn a flashlight on and you get, immediately you solve that problem. So while I respect that this type of target, this type of hard contrasting target does increase someone's ability to shoot a small group, what it's for is it's meant to be a diagnostic target so that people can aim at the same spot every time and they can fix other things in their shooting process. It's not really to fix visual issues unless your visual issues are basically that you're all fucked up and you don't wait for the sight to come back to the same spot every time, in which case it'll fix that too. But you can mix in different targetry. Like you could go out and we do it in class, like in a defensive handgun class or especially handgun precision, we try to shoot silhouettes that don't have that contrasting thing because I want people to understand like, hey, how does this apply? How does me shooting B8s all day translate into, sort of a more realistic type of shooting or a more aggressive type of shooting? And the answer is it does apply because it fixes your trigger press and it fixes your grip, slight grip issues that you may have. You can refine those things. And then when you move to a target that doesn't have that visual contrast as much, you can use the different reference points if it doesn't have the visual contrast like the chest box here, or you can shoot them in the head and then you get that visual contrast. But you can use those things to now refine your visual stuff, right? Your visual patience. Am I purposely driving it back to the same spot every time without having that hard contrasted black 9 and 10 ring like on the B8s? Okay, so that's kind of my take on targetry. If you guys are interested in getting this target, the target that I use for classes and stuff like that, we've got them online. This is the Mr. Skeleton target that is probably going to be our flagship. It's got skeleton on the front, so you've got things that aren't contrasted as well. We also have a non-color version of this. And then on the back, you've got the hard contrasted black and white B8s. We're going to have, in the coming days, we're going to have these perp, we're going to call them perp targets or whatever it is that we're going to call them, bad guy targets, where they're more photorealistic and they have a certain type of contrast and stuff like that to them. We'll have hostage targets and things like that. We've got this guy over here you can see the corner of. We've got the dots. Okay, that is the the non-color version of the skeleton has dots on the back with black and white skeleton on the front. So these are good for like pistol and rifle transitions and stuff like that if you're at the indoor range and you're shooting. So yeah, if you guys want to do that, it's Axle Targets. There's a link in my bio for it. And you can also use the code Thunderbolt, and that'll get you $10 off on your first order. All right, so thanks for watching. Hope you guys can appreciate my viewpoint, and I want you guys to understand too, like, people are not necessarily like wrong about this stuff when they say certain things. It's that people get very like, you know, fired up and they get opinionated, and then they start saying like crazy shit where they're like getting mad about because people shoot a B8 or they don't shoot a B8. You don't have to get mad. You just need to take the information that works for you and use it to get better at shooting, right? So like, again, there's a place for this type of target and untimed shooting. There's a place for this type of target and untimed shoot and time shooting or untimed shooting. There's a place for time shooting on USPSA targets. There's a reason why you would use targets like that as well. That they can all be used in a holistic approach to getting better at shooting, whether you're trying to get better at competitive stuff or you're trying to get better at defensive stuff, or you're just trying to be a better, more well-rounded shooter, okay? So there's place for this, there's place for this, there's place for this, there's a place for lots of different stuff. And if you want targets that have some thought put in them and my thought process put into them, you can check out Axle Targets. If you're at a range, we will do custom targets. We just did custom targets for Nexus Shooting, which was my old employer for many years. They're gonna have the same targetry that they've always had, but we put their logo on it. Anything you wanna do, we can do it if you're willing to put the minimum order in, all right? So stay safe, get trained up, sign up for classes. If you wanna train with me, again, links in the bio. If you want targets, links in the bio. Have a great day. I appreciate you guys watching.